welcome to Outlier On Air. Today we are privileged to be with the Benay brothers, who are writers, Aaron and Matthew Benay. And we are in central LA at the Blank Spaces co-working space. So welcome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
So tell me a little bit about the situation. You're both writers. You work together.
Yeah.
How did this come to be?
We've been doing this for some time now, and basically I went to film school to NYU, and it's been my passion since a little kid to be in the movie business. Huh. So at some point years ago, I said to Aaron, let's get together and start writing something as a team, and I did. I dragged him into this, kicking and screaming, and
I learned on the job.
Yes.
And then about 10 years ago, we packed up the car in New York and did the cross-country drive, and wound up in LA and set up shop here.
So was this the leap of faith where we're going to go make it in LA, or was it the, hey, we've got something cool in LA, let's get out of town?
We hedged our bets a little, and we had sold a few projects from New York already.
All right.
So we took the delivery money that we received for finishing a script, and we packed up the car and we made the leap.
Cool. Put it back into the business. That's what we do.
Exactly.
So was being in New York really instrumental in getting you to that point? Was it really important that you were there in the hub of?
It was more an obstacle than, than an instrument.
What was the obstacle?
It was, I think, at the time there was more activity in New York in the film business. Okay. But I think it's important for our business to be in LA and to be accessible to the studios, to the networks, and also I think the lifestyle here is a little bit more forgiving to the writers. So we have sunshine, we have space, so...
It's not rainy and cold and depressing all the time. I'm sorry,
yes.
We love New York. We do.
New York's fantastic, but it is raining, cold, and depressing. It's hard.
All right,
it's
just a fact.
And,
it's just a fact.
Yeah, that's an accepted baseline of living in New York City.
Yes. So we suffered as artists for a few years there, and then sold out.
So tell me about there has to be some previous job stories. As entrepreneurs,
well, it's funny,
like
the way. Yeah, I mean there are lots of job stories, and I'll tell you one that shows our passion for the business, and also like trying to do something like really authentically. Which is when we started out, I was the film guy. Aaron studied Japanese, right? He speaks Japanese fluently, and consequently, we've done like 3 movies for like 3 different studios set in Japan.
Really? Because of that?
Because of that. Because he's like an expert by screenwriting standards, an expert in Japan, right?
It's a very low bar.
It set the bar about a foot off the ground. But we got a call one day from Imagine Entertainment, which is the company that produced Cinderella Man and that won an Oscar.
Da Vinci Code.
Wow.
Da Vinci Code.
Beautiful Mind.
Excellent.
Right. And Brian Grazer, who was the producer, the Oscar-winning producer, said he wanted to do something about the Yakuza, the Japanese Mafia. And they said, find someone who knows something about Japan. So we got a call from Imagine and said, this guy, Aaron Benay, he speaks Japanese, he lived in Japan, and bring these guys in. I want to tell me about Yakuza.
So we actually sold the project to Universal, and we wanted to do like a Godfather set in Japan with the Japanese Yakuza. And there are 1,000 Italian American mafia here in the States. There are 85,000 Japanese mafia.
Wow.
And so we went. So we decided to just book tickets. The cheapest tickets that we could find to Japan, $500.
Right.
A seat to fly strapped to the wing of the plane, basically. And
in the cargo area.
We started making cold calls to reporters until we had an introduction with the biggest crime syndicate in Japan, the Yamaguchi Gumi, who, if you look them up, they're like it's like the Corleone family. And
so you just made an appointment.
Well, it ended up being an appointment, yeah.
They took us to this very fancy Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
The whole bottom floor is cleared out except for a table for 4. There's like a dozen waiters flitting about. And we spent 3 hours talking to this Yakuza boss who he manages $1 billion of legitimate real estate, but he's been arrested 17 times, 6 times on suspicion of murder. So he's like,
wow.
like a total wolf in sheep's clothing.
And he came out and he, he was dressed head to toe in Hermes.
Yeah.
And he had the, gold Rolex with, pave diamonds. And so he was what they call the economic Yakuza. He was like trained to do real business, not just criminal activities. And so we interviewed him for a few hours. And at the end, he said, so who is this producer? And I said, well, I told him some movies. And he said in Japanese, very sort of philosophically, Cinderella Man. I saw it on the plane and I cried. So we came back to the States and we were working on the script. And we said we need to give this guy a gift for entertaining us for a few nights in Japan. So it turned out that Imagine was going to very generously have Ron Howard sign a one sheet. And we sent it off to Japan.
Nice.
And not long after that, we got a call that the Yakuza were coming to L.A. And
so you made friends with them, basically.
Apparently.
We did our jobs too well.
They're going to come couch surf now.
Hey there, Outlier entrepreneurs. I hope you're enjoying our guest today. I don't know about you, but I am obsessed with learning from others who are completely crushing it in their business. As entrepreneurs, we want to give you even more interactions to our guests, experts, investors, and other insanely ambitious entrepreneurs. We've just opened 50 spots for the Outlier Mastermind. This is a tight-knit community that offers you complete support through a closed Facebook group. You'll have an accountability partner and the opportunity to participate in business building activities together, which will accelerate your progress toward that next huge goal. We'll have exclusive hangouts and trainings with experts and successful entrepreneurs, as well as direct access to the Outlier team. If you're completely dedicated to your business and are ready to turbocharge your success, go to outliermagazine.co to learn more today.
Yes.
He said the gangster's coming to Los Angeles and he wants to meet the producer.
Oh, okay.
So we vetted it, and it turned out that Brian, who's a very curious person, is interested in meeting a lot of people like the Pope, President Obama, wanted to meet a real Yakuza, and these guys are #1 in Japan. So they stayed at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and they took the house rolls over a few blocks to Imagine. And we had a meeting with all the movie executives and with the Japanese Mafia.
And Brian was, would interview him and want to get the details. He's a very detail-oriented guy. And he's like, what's your preferred method for offing someone?
And they had hired, the hotel had assigned them this very sweet Japanese woman from Venice Beach. And she came along, and she's usually, in typical Japanese, probably semiconductor kind of meetings, and here she is with the mafia, and so she answers a question like that, and she's taking notes dutifully, and then she says, "We prefer strangulation, and then throw him in the trunk."
Oh my gosh! I can't believe they would be so open. I mean, that's amazing.
So they act pretty openly.
Wow!
But
Really?
we end up creating a character in the script that we were writing for Universal based on the guy that we met. So it was a very fruitful.
So that's how some of our previous work impacted, the background in Japan impacted what we were doing.
Can we go see this maybe at this point?
Is it still in development now? So hopefully sometime in.
You'll let us know, right? And then we'll let you know.
You'll see the trailers online. So.
Okay, so you sound so just matter of fact about it, but were you like looking at each other like?
Oh yeah,
what is going on? Are we gonna die?
Initially, but
we were nervous initially because we thought maybe this guy who's a
real
gangster,
criminal,
right? Didn't want two guys from Los Angeles writing a story about him and his organization, but
but it probably is kind of flattering to him, maybe.
Well, initially he said, "Why do you want to talk to me about Yakuza?" And we were like, "Well,
because you
Yakuza, I think, right?" And then he said, "Okay." if you're going to tell my life story, this is how you want to do it.
Oh, I see.
And we had to delicately sort of redirect that it was more about the universal experience of the Japanese Mafia.
So you handled it well.
I think so.
So
we came back with our lives intact.
That's great. That's a crazy story. I'm sure you have more.
That's our craziest.
That's your craziest.
That was going into the field. That was embedded.
That's awesome. So you're doing it. You're here. You've moved to LA. You're working on some amazing projects. There are several people out there that are trying to get there. What do you have to tell them? How can you help them?
I think the biggest piece of advice I have to say is sit down and write. If you want to be a writer, just sit down and write, even if it's
blog or what kind?
Well, if you want to be a screenwriter, you have to write screenplays. You have to learn the craft. I mean, before we even listen, way back when, I was couch surfing around New York. We were both working multiple jobs.
Matt was living with his grandmother. He was a trainer in Soho, at a gym.
Working nights, living with my grandmother on Long Island, writing scripts. But and that was not. I will tell you, it wasn't a fun time. It wasn't. I wasn't out in LA.
It was not glamorous.
No,
either,
no. I mean, we're just doing the work,
and also trying to find our footing. That it took us a couple of years with the first script, and we worked a lot more slowly because we didn't have a mastery of writing just yet. And so now we do that, the same script that would take 2 years. Back then we could write it in 2 months now.
Wow. So what helped you the most in that time? I mean, who did you reach out to? What got you there other than time?
I think it was just the two of us. I mean, we were sort of like a ship at sea, and it was the process too. Yeah. So I think that's one thing. I think just to sit down and do it. A lot of people ask us, hey, could you take my idea and do something with it, or show this producer one of my ideas. And it's sort of a fallacy that people in Hollywood don't buy ideas; they buy writing. They want to know that those ideas can be executed. Sure. So you can't just a lot of people have ideas, and it's easy to come up with ideas. Some are good, some are bad, but it's hard to turn those ideas into actually fully realized worlds and scripts, and scripts that someone would want to turn into a TV show or a movie.
I think that's so relevant just for entrepreneurship in general. I mean, we have 1,000 ideas a day, but execution is so important. So true to writing as well.
Yeah, I think it's exactly, it's analogous, because most people don't do anything with those ideas, right? Sure. It's the entrepreneur who actually turns it into something. Any of the greatest companies in American and world history and Americans are known for having those brilliant sparks of ideas. If you don't turn it into something, it's nothing. And same with us.
And 6 months is not long enough, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you got to really do it for a while.
I think we look back in our time at Blank Spaces, and sometimes we think about we just sold a TV project to FX recently, and we think about it was that specific desk we were sitting at when we came up with the idea, and it was just like a one-sentence idea.
How cool.
And then we turned it into a thing that got producers and a studio and a director, and then attached, and then sold it to a network.
Nice.
So, but it all starts with that spark.
Right.
It's like that line from Inception. It's like an idea has power. If you take the idea and you evolve it into something and you galvanize people with it, if you're going to see it through, it can become something tangible. It becomes something that can yield you financial benefits.
Right.
But you have to see it through to its conclusion. You can't just, sketch it on a cocktail napkin and put it in the drawer.
Right. Absolutely. Takes grit. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's another thing for entrepreneurs and and writers being entrepreneurs too, that dealing with failure and bouncing back from it, and any entrepreneur is going to experience the lows as well. It's sort of like it's a roller coaster ride, really.
Yeah.
And so we've had experiences like that where you could just be sunk. It could just be over, and you come back and you the next day and you plug away at it, and you have the ability to turn it around.
And you're close. A lot of times you're so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's an adage in writing that true character is defined by how you react to crisis. And that is very much true for entrepreneurship. It's like, if you have a failure or a setback, your character is defined by how you react to it. I mean, you can be, sure, it can be depressing, you could not want to work, but that's the worst kind of reaction, because not working is only going to dig you deeper into that hole. So basically it's like, get up, dust yourself off, get back in the saddle, and do the next thing.
And the only thing, we tell ourselves the only thing that we can control is what we actually do. We can't, there are so many variables in the world that politics with companies that you're dealing with, world markets, but we can control our reaction to that, and we control what we do.
So thank you. And I want to say, let's say you're working on right now National Treasure 4. Is that right?
Three.
Hopefully there will be a 4, provided there's a 3.
National Treasure 3.
Yeah.
And do you know when that's going to come out? When can we see it?
The release
Still
date
in
hasn't
process,
been announced yet, so,
well,
we don't know just
stay
yet.
tuned for National Treasure 3, and then more to come after that.
Certainly. For sure.
And then the Mafia movie, which I'm really excited about. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.